I learned that song like 2 days before I performed it live. Oh my gosh, and I about puked every time I performed on the show. It was just...
In the summer of 2017, a shy 12-year-old from Oklahoma stepped onto the America's Got Talent stage clutching nothing but a puppet and a dream. And within minutes, she had the entire nation on its feet. Darci Lynne Farmer wasn't just good, she was a revelation. With her jaw-dropping ventriloquism act and vocal precision that seemed impossible for her age, she stunned the judges into silence before drawing a golden buzzer slam from Mel B that echoed across social media like a shockwave. That golden confetti didn't just crown a standout act, it launched a cultural phenomenon. Overnight, Darci became one of the most talked about contestants in AGT history, racking up millions of views, countless interviews, and fan bases that stretched far beyond the typical variety show crowd. But what many didn't realize at the time was just how unique and demanding her act truly was. While other child stars might ride the wave of one talent, Darci was mastering two at once: comedy timing and vocal control, all while maintaining the illusion that she wasn't the one speaking at all. She didn't just win season 12 of AGT, she broke records, changed perceptions, and gave ventriloquism a vibrant new life on national television. For many, Darci wasn't just a kid with talent. She was a symbol of hope, humility, and hard work paying off. But even as the cameras flashed and the tours booked up, there was something else brewing behind that polished stage persona. Because as America celebrated its newest sweetheart, the pressures of perfection, performance, and constant public visibility began to quietly build. And while fans believed her journey was only just beginning, the next chapter was already shaping up to be far more complicated than anyone imagined. Darci Lynne's win on America's Got Talent wasn't just a moment, it was a movement. Within days of her crowning victory, she was booked for talk shows, major press appearances, and nationwide performances. She headlined her own tour, filled theaters coast to coast, and even landed holiday specials that drew millions of viewers. Brands lined up, magazine covers followed, and for a while, it looked like Darci was living every young performer's fantasy. But behind the sparkle of sold-out venues and standing ovations, a very different reality was taking shape, one that few were paying attention to. While other 12-year-olds were figuring out middle school, Darci was navigating professional contracts, media obligations, and relentless public scrutiny. Every interview had to be perfect. Every performance had to be flawless. And as her audience grew, so did the expectations. It wasn't just about being good anymore, it was about being exceptional all the time. Fans marveled at her discipline, but some industry insiders quietly questioned how sustainable this meteoric rise could be. In whispers, rumors swirled about exhaustion, pressure from handlers, and the toll that fame was beginning to take on her mental well-being. Still, Darci remained poised in public, her smile never slipping, until it did. Subtle cracks began to show. Canceled appearances, sudden silences on social media, interviews where her energy seemed dimmed. For someone who had made a career out of speaking through puppets, her own voice was becoming harder to hear. And just as quickly as she had exploded into stardom, the noise around her began to shift. The same headlines that once praised her genius now speculated about burnout. Was she overwhelmed? Had she hit her peak too soon? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, was the price of fame simply too high for a child to pay? By the time 2021 rolled around, fans who had once followed Darci Lynne's every move began to notice something strange. She wasn't posting as often, her tour schedule had thinned, and public appearances that once seemed routine were suddenly absent. Whispers turned into full-blown speculation. Was Darci taking a break, or was something deeper unfolding behind the scenes? For years, she had carried the weight of being America's ventriloquist prodigy, a role model for young performers, and the face of AGT's new era. But the signs of burnout were becoming harder to ignore. Despite maintaining a picture-perfect social media presence, the girl who once radiated boundless energy now appeared cautious, quieter, and more guarded in interviews. Some fans even theorized that she was deliberately stepping away from the spotlight to regain control of her identity. A theory not without merit. The machine that built her up so quickly had, in many ways, left little room for her to simply exist as a teenager. Her absence was never officially explained, but in entertainment, silence often speaks louder than words. YouTube upload stalled. Her once buzzing fan account slowed. And perhaps most telling, the puppets that had made her a household name were no longer front and center. It was as if she was shedding a skin, but without letting the world know what form she'd take next. Interviews were sparse and vague, and no official statement ever confirmed a hiatus. But fans couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, and not just on the surface. Some speculated health issues. Others feared industry pressure had pushed her too far. And yet, through all the confusion, one truth remained. Darci Lynne Farmer, once the unstoppable darling of American television, had quietly vanished from the stage. But whether it was a disappearance or a transformation in progress, well, that was still up for debate. As the mystery around Darci Lynne's retreat from the spotlight deepened, those closest to her remained notably quiet, especially her family. But insiders familiar with Darci's journey pointed to one constant that had always grounded her: the unwavering support of her parents, Clark and Misty Farmer. From the very beginning, Darci's rise had been closely monitored and lovingly guided by her mother, who was often seen backstage during AGT and on tour. Unlike many child stars who fall prey to industry chaos, Darci had something rare: a home life that resisted the Hollywood machine. And as the pressures of fame intensified, it became clear that her family wasn't just her emotional anchor. They were her safety net. In several interviews, Darci hinted that her parents encouraged her to take time for herself, to stay connected to her roots in Oklahoma, and to remember that life didn't have to be lived in the spotlight to have value. Around 2022, there were quiet rumors that she had turned down several high-profile projects, including potential TV roles and overseas tours, in order to stay close to home and support her younger siblings. It wasn't the headline-grabbing choice, but it was a revealing one. And while fans longed for more content, more performances, more puppets, Darci seemed to be choosing something else entirely: balance. Friends close to the family suggested she was taking classes, spending time outdoors, even reconnecting with childhood hobbies unrelated to performance. Her family shielded her from the harsher side of fame, never exploiting her story for clicks or scandal. And in an era where fame often swallows young stars whole, that decision may have saved her. But with her career on pause and her fans left in limbo, the big question remained: was this a temporary reset, or was Darci Lynne walking away from the spotlight for good? Then, in late 2023, something unexpected happened. Without warning, Darci Lynne began posting cryptic updates, short singing clips, moody portraits, and candid moments that felt raw, unfiltered, and deeply personal. The puppets were notably absent. Gone were the elaborate costumes, the comedy routines, the wide-eyed characters that once defined her. In their place was Darci, no longer a child, but a young woman finding her voice on her own terms. Fans were stunned. Was this a rebrand? A farewell to ventriloquism? Or simply an evolution that had been brewing in silence? One post in particular drew attention: a stripped-down vocal cover with the caption, "It's time." No explanation, no context, just a declaration. Soon after, she debuted a series of acoustic performances, showcasing a vocal maturity that left even longtime supporters speechless. She wasn't just reinventing herself. She was shedding the very identity that had catapulted her to stardom. Industry analysts took notice, calling it one of the boldest transitions for a former child star since Miley Cyrus. But Darci's approach was different. There was no rebellion, no tabloid chaos, just a quiet, intentional pivot. Interviews subtly hinted at her desire to explore new creative paths and tell stories that feel like me. Some fans applauded the change, calling it brave and authentic. Others expressed disappointment, missing the magic of her puppet performances. But for Darci, this wasn't about nostalgia, it was about agency. She was no longer performing for applause. She was performing to be heard. And whether or not the world was ready for the new Darci Lynne, she was finally ready to step forward. Not as a ventriloquist, not as a prodigy, but as herself. Still, questions lingered. Was this shift permanent? Was she done with puppetry forever? And what kind of artist was she becoming behind the curtain? It wasn't until early 2024 that the silence began to make sense. In a rare, emotionally charged interview with a local Oklahoma outlet, one that barely made national headlines, Darci Lynne finally cracked open the curtain. Without naming specific diagnoses or events, she admitted something fans had long suspected. She'd been struggling quietly. There were moments, she confessed, when I didn't even know who I was without the puppets. Though she stopped short of using clinical terms, her words painted a vivid picture of emotional exhaustion, identity crisis, and what she called the pressure to be perfect all the time. For the first time, Darci dropped the smile that had once been her signature. She talked about losing herself in the grind, the fear of disappointing fans, and the loneliness of growing up in front of millions who expected her to always be upbeat, always funny, always flawless. I wasn't okay, she admitted, but I didn't know how to say it. It was a shocking admission from someone who'd built her career around projecting control and charm. And yet, instead of staging a dramatic breakdown or lashing out at the industry, Darci chose the path of quiet courage. She stepped back. She asked for space. She sought therapy. She took time to simply be. In doing so, she became something far more powerful than a child star. She became a symbol of what healing looks like when it's done with grace. Fans flooded her social media with messages of support, many of them sharing their own stories of burnout, anxiety, and invisible battles. For the first time, Darci wasn't hiding behind a puppet. She was facing the world as a human being. But the question now wasn't whether she could survive fame. It was whether she could rebuild herself after nearly being crushed by it. By mid-2025, the world got its answer. Darci Lynne didn't just return. She re-emerged with purpose, control, and a strikingly new identity. It began quietly with a soft launch. Updated branding across her social media platforms, a minimalist logo, a subtle color palette, and a complete absence of her puppets. Then came the announcement that took fans and critics alike by surprise: the Real Me Tour. Not a ventriloquism showcase, not a nostalgia-driven throwback, but a fully original musical experience headlined by Darci herself, now positioned not as an entertainer with props, but as a vocalist and songwriter with stories to tell. The setlist was raw, deeply personal, and laced with themes of growth, heartbreak, and reclaiming one's narrative. And while some longtime fans mourned the absence of Petunia and Oscar, most were captivated by the transformation. Her voice, once hidden behind characters, now rang out clear and unguarded, with a vocal maturity and emotional depth that startled even seasoned music critics. Industry insiders noted her strategic pivot: no flashy PR stunts, no viral gimmicks, just a deliberate, slow-burn reinvention that focused on substance over spectacle. This wasn't a rebrand, it was a rebirth. And in her live shows, Darci finally began speaking about her past in more direct terms. She joked about her younger self, poked fun at her AGT days, and even performed a single duet with a puppet just to remind you where I came from, she told a cheering crowd in Nashville. It was a moment that bridged the old and new Darci without apology or regret. She wasn't burying her past, she was reframing it. And as ticket sales soared and positive reviews rolled in, one thing became clear: Darci Lynne hadn't been forgotten. She'd just been waiting until the world was ready to meet her as she truly was. Even with her comeback in full swing and a redefined career taking shape, there's still a lingering question that no interview or social media post has fully answered. What really happened during those missing years? And what parts of Darci Lynne's journey are still hidden from view? While she's been more open than ever, many fans believe there's a deeper story she's yet to share. Whispers of a potential documentary have circulated among industry circles, with speculation that she's been quietly filming behind the scenes during her transformation. There are also unconfirmed reports that producers from AGT, All Stars, reached out to invite her back, but she declined, perhaps signaling that she's not interested in revisiting the chapter that nearly consumed her. Others point to her cryptic lyrics and spoken word interludes during performances, which hint at struggles with self-worth, betrayal, and creative control. Was she battling toxic management? Did the pressure of being a child star lead to darker moments she's not yet ready to discuss? Darci has never confirmed, but she also hasn't denied it. And that deliberate ambiguity has only fueled more curiosity. She remains fiercely protective of her privacy, avoiding gossip shows, skipping red carpet events, and choosing authenticity over attention. It's a rare strategy in a digital age that demands oversharing. But it's also what makes her story so compelling. Because Darci Lynne isn't just a former AGT winner. She's now a symbol of what happens when a young performer takes control of her own legacy. Where others might have faded into obscurity or spiraled under pressure, Darci has chosen reinvention, resilience, and most of all, restraint. The spotlight is back on her, but this time on her terms. And whether she ever tells the full story or not, one thing is clear. Darci Lynne's most powerful act was never the puppets. It was surviving the machine, stepping away, and coming back stronger, stranger, and more human than anyone expected.